would go over a few misconceptions about HOCD. I'm only going over 3 because my brain is fried, but I'm sure there are more. I'm sure there are a lot, actually, but I thought I would narrow it down to 3 big misconceptions. So the first one is that it doesn't exist. You're funny. You're funny and you're cheeky because it doesn't. I mean, it is. It does exist, but I do find it really funny when people say that because what do you think they did in Jesus Christ times when somebody like fell on the floor and started gagging and coughing? What do you, okay, bronchitis didn't exist then, okay? Or did it? Yes, it did exist, but they didn't know what to call it. Do you think they just let that person just die? No, they helped them anyway, even though they didn't have a name for it. So I honestly do not think HOCD exists in the DSM, Book of Mental Disorders, but it is a OCD theme that we know is, I'm not going to say rampant, but it is just as common as any other theme. It's just not really known about. Yes, unfortunately, it does exist. It's incredibly debilitating and horrible, and also fat. Yeah, I don't, like, we don't want it to exist, but it does. That brings me to my next misconception, is that it's not, like, it's somehow different than other themes. It's not, other than the subject matter is different, of course, but the obsessions, the nature of it is no different than compulsive hand washing, for example, or harm OCD, things that are more common and well known. It's the same, but unfortunately the nature of it is the exact same. The third misconception is and piggybacks off the first, that doesn't exist. Not only is it just not real, also we're all homophobic. Yes, we're all homophobic. I don't know if you can tell, but I live in a home. So, no. Second of all, a lot of people in the HOCD community they honestly could not care less about what gay people are doing. They don't care. They don't have any sort of negative attitudes towards gay people. That's because it's not even about sexuality at all. It's simply something that OCD picks to obsess over, and that it just it just rolls out that way. It just so happens to be somebody's sexuality. I have also, another thing, I've met many gay people. I'm sure there are just as many gay people as there are straight people with HOCD. I know it because I've met so many gay people who have said, yeah, I have obsessions about being straight, and it's very scary and terrifying and makes me feel like I don't know who I am. I am gonna have to go with no, I'm eliminating it. We are not homophobic. So those are the main misconceptions. Comment down below if you hear any more. I think they're absolutely silly. I think they're funny. I think they're very comical, and honestly, it just comes down to people not really understanding what it is. Like I said, people don't know it exists. It does, unfortunately, but people don't know about it. My job, what I'm trying to do here, is shed a light on it and say, here it is, just as any other theme. It's no different. I know the subject matter is a little bit controversial. We don't care. It's still a theme of OCD at the end of the day, and we still have to go through it, and it sucks. And I think that's what simplifies the treatment of HOCD, because you're not going to go about it any other way, another way other than what you would do to subside or treat harm OCD, for example, or relationship OCD. It's the same thing. You're exposing yourself to what you fear. And like, okay, let me think of an exposure real quick. To leave you guys with a little treat, here's an exposure to try at home and make yourself panic. Oh, that's what you're essentially doing. You're making yourself panic, getting used to that panic, and training your mind to see whatever theme you have as it's not threatening you anymore, and it's not this big bad bear that you previously perceived it as. So that's what ERP does. I'm trying to think of an exposure though. This will take me 57 minutes and 5 days. 37 years later, I finally thought of an exposure to leave you guys with. Okay, so I'm gonna give you, actually, we're gonna spice it up. I'm gonna give you a mild exposure and a major exposure. That literally made no sense. Okay, a mild exposure and a severe exposure, meaning this is for people who, this is an extreme exposure, pretty much. Okay, first one, mild. We are thinking about somebody that is conventionally attractive, that is of the sex that you are not attracted to. Okay, now, dun dun dun, you're going to rate them from 1 to 10. 1 to 10. 1 meaning you think they're ugly, which you know they're not. That's false. That's a lie. Or 10 meaning you think they are just objectively attractive or hot or whatever you want to say. Okay? That is the mild one. You guys are going to hate me, but we're going to go there. Look up somebody's naked photo, and basically you're just looking at it. We're not doing anything. No. We're just looking at it because this is supposed to be like a trigger. Of course, it would be a trigger. How would it not be a trigger, you know? And you're just going to sit there. You're going to sit there with the anxiety. You're going to sit there with whatever you think is going on. You're just going to sit there with it and let it pass and get used to feeling that spike of anxiety, get used to feeling that panic. Of course, don't push yourself to do this exposure if you think you're going to panic and like die on the floor. But this is for, like I said, people maybe in the later stages of therapy or whatever, in the later stages of treating their HOCD. Why would you recommend that exposure? Because I'm a menace. Yes, I am a menace. So that one's awesome. I don't know why I said it's awesome. It's actually very panic-inducing, but it's an extreme exposure. So I've actually heard worse exposures, not worse as in they're ineffective, but worse as in like more extreme, that I don't want to repeat. But should I? No, I'm not going to repeat it. So actually, you can look up extreme exposures. I think we have a lot in our group, the HOCD group. I'm going to link below. They Call Me Jesse started it. Check out his channel. He has a lot of HOCD videos that are super helpful. But yeah, I think we have some exposures like there. I'm sure there's a list somewhere, or somebody posted it, of extreme exposures you can do, or mild exposures, whatever you feel like, basically. So I hope this video cleared some things up about HOCD, and I will see you in the next one.